Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Deaf and Drill Cough Expectorant. Deaf and Drill, breathe easy, feel better. Well, this afternoon, President John Dramani Mahama has, with immediate effect, cancelled the payment and allocation of fuel allowances to all political appointees as part of his administration's ongoing efforts to reduce public expenditure. The announcement was made on Tuesday, July 15, in an official statement from the presidency signed by the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwasi-Ofosu. According to the release, the directive is aimed at curbing government spending and redirecting funds into key priority sectors. And that statement is coming up on your screen shortly. It reads, President John Dramani Mahama has, effective immediately, directed the cancellation of payment of fuel allowances and allocation of fuel to all political appointees. The directive forms part of a broader curb in government expenditure aimed at cutting costs and channeling public funds into priority areas. The president believes that leadership must also bear its part of the sacrifices it is calling on the people to make. The latest cost-cutting measures follows sweeping reductions in the size of government through the appointment of fewer ministers and presidential office staff. Other measures have included stopping satellite TV subscription for offices at the presidency and other government facilities. But is this actually new? And what is compelling the government to scrap expenditure on fuel allowances? Well, our research team has been doing some digging. They have been trying to fish out what exactly government is seeking to achieve and how much they plan to rake in with this new initiative. Our lead data and research analyst, Isaac Kofeji, joins me in the studio with some fresh perspective. Kofi, today we've been trying to find out what exactly government plans to do. But let's go back down memory lane, really. This is not the first time an administration is doing this, is it?
Absolutely, Fossey. This is not new. This is not the first time that in the tight fiscal position, government is resorting to some of these measures like cutting down on fuel allowances. But what we understand is that the last time this happened was somewhere 2023, and this was captured in the budget, in the 2023 budget, that government, around that time, Kenneth Ofori-Atta was the finance minister, and he said government was going to cut fuel allowances to appointees by 50%. And so although we have seen it before, at the last time we saw anything of that magnitude came with a 50% cut. But this time around, we are seeing it again, but the dynamics are different, where President Mahama has directed 100% cancellation of the fuel allowances to all political appointees. And we have been trying to understand what really is compelling government to actually go on this tangent. And we understand that per the directives, this will affect political appointees who are in ministries, departments, and agents of government, and then also metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, and then also state-owned enterprises. Political appointees in these areas will be affected. The last time this happened, we understand it affected so many things like fuel coupons and all of those things that you give to political appointees. And we do not know if this time around is going to be the same. But we are picking cue from what happened the last time, and we understand that this is what happened. And in fact, the biggest question that almost everybody is asking is, what is really compelling government to do this? So we decided to go into the IMF program to actually understand if there is any fiscal, in terms of constraint that government is facing. And then we understood that if you look at how much the IMF is expecting government to spend this year, that is lower than what government projects to spend this year. So for instance, government is projecting that in 2025, if you take away clearance of arrears, amortization, and other things, government is hoping to expend some 271 billion Ghana cedis. That's about 27.1 billion US dollars in expenditure this year. But the IMF says, hold on, our projection shows that you should be spending 271 67 billion Ghana cedis and not 271 billion.
So there's a deficit.
Absolutely.
Really.
So already government is racing to actually close some of this gap. And we understand that if you look at the last assessment that the IMF did of government program, the IMF program, you understand that there were a lot of slippages. And if you look at expenditure outside of the gift system in excess of 40 billion Ghana cedis, all of these things happen in the election year, and we need to get back on track. And we were learning from the governor, the Bank of Ghana governor, who said that at a point when they met the IMF, they were even considering cancelling the entire IMF program and possibly restarting the whole thing again because of
many lapses.
Absolutely. The IMF caused this large fiscal slippages. And when some of these things happen, you need to find alternatives to close the gap. And we understand that government lost in excess of 2 billion for scrapping the e-levy, lost somewhere close to about 200 million Ghana cedis for scrapping the withholding tax on betting and all of that. Although they have actually showed us that there are ways they can actually recover. All of these things are projections. And the IMF is also worried that this could affect the revenue basket of the country. And so if some of these things are coming up, it is a way that, that's not the only way government is going to use to close this gap, but it's one sure way government can use to close the, rising expenditure of government. And we try to understand how much government could be saving. So what did we do? We went into the data to understand how much government has been spending on fuel allowances. Let me take you back to 2022 to where government spent 438 million Ghana cedis on fuel allowances alone that year.
Say that again.
438 million Ghana cedis on fuel allowances.
Interesting.
Then you come to 2023, it spends 600 million Ghana cedis on fuel allowances. Although we do not have the 2024 data, our projection is that if you look at the rate of change and the rate at which fuel allowances budget increases, government could have spent close to 680 million Ghana cedis on fuel allowance alone in 2025. And looking at it from the fact that it was an election year, it could be around 700 million Ghana cedis. So if it's the entire fuel allowance that we are looking at, government could be saving possibly not less than 500 million Ghana cedis if they decide to cancel the entire fuel allowance package in 2025.
Interesting data we have here from our JoyNews research desk. Meanwhile, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, has welcomed the decision, but is urging a broader review of emoluments and gratuities for public office holders. The Chamber insists future adjustments must reflect the country's current economic realities. And that statement is coming up on your screens right now from COPEC. Well, the statement reads that the decision by the government to effectively immediately scrap all allowances for fuel for every appointee of the president is commendable and forward-thinking, albeit a few things will have to be considered forthwith. Fuel allowances over the years have been enjoyed by virtually all Article 71 office holders, appointees of the president and other public officers, to make mobility easier for these important public office holders, in addition to the age provision of vehicles fully serviced and fueled by the state. Our recent checks indicate averages about 833 liters or 185 gallons per appointee per month. These figures are staggering, though some appointees do receive way more than these average figures. The above serves as an indication of how much the state expends on public office holders aside, providing them with ultra-new vehicles and maintenance of the same. While we believe appointees should be catered for in a way as to reduce the tendency of being corrupt while holding public offices, we also believe the excesses of office ought to be curtailed, and for that reason, we view this new directive by the president as completely laudable and commendable. Given the above, however, It is our demand herewith that all other public office holders, emoluments and gratuities be reviewed going forward to reflect the current economic status of the country as the government seeks to advance austerity in public spending. We also demand that monies that would have been used in providing fuel for the appointees that has been scrapped forthwith be put into an account and the proceeds of same be used for specific public projects that will benefit both current and future generations to serve as a testament of the current government's prudent management and utilization of public resources. The statement goes on to say, we further encourage the government to consider the adoption and assembly of electric and solar-powered vehicles for public office holders going forward, as has been proposed by the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. The departure from high-consuming Land Cruisers and other vehicles will go a long way to eliminate the need to, at any point in time, restore the now scrapped fuel allowances by the current government. The statement ends by saying, to end, we want to encourage the government to audit the petroleum price build-up, as some taxes on the current price build-up have outlived their purposes and also should be removed to give respite in the face of the imminent introduction of a new 1 Ghana cedi per litre levy, which is set to come into effect on the 16th of July 2025. While the Deputy Presidential Spokesperson, Shamima Muslim, has been providing some clarity to the decision. Let's listen.
It is part of the reset agenda. The various audits and reforms are going on right from the presidency to see what we can do as a government to, to use resources more prudently, what we can do also symbolically as a government to show commitment to the reset agenda, even as we ask Ghanaians to participate, to embrace policies and programs, to even embrace some levies like the 1 Ghana cedi, levy on petroleum products that would help us manage and deal with our debt and be able to buy some liquid fuels to power our power generation plants. We cannot ask, Ghanaians to do all of these things, whereas they feel that government appointees are fully taken care of, and that is one of the rationalizations behind it. And we are hoping that we would make some savings from this program to invest in critical sectors of education, of health, local government, and all the other social sectors that require a lot of resources. So it is we practicing what we are preaching, prudent use of resources.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with fiscal emergency, looking at how much the IMF says you should spend and how much government has projected would be spending. It's got nothing to do with this. It's just a reset agenda.
It's a reset reform. There's no emergency. How much can we raise from fuel allocations to solve the 68 billion debt that sits on the ECG books? How much? But it is symbolic also to the extent that it brings everybody's attention to the fact that it is not business as usual. Look, my sister, right now we hold a lot of government events at the presidency. People will tell you when they come, we give them water. There's very few times, depending on the event, you would get snacks, and even that anytime your unit is organizing a program, when you send a budget, you should know that the budget you are sending, realistically, you might be getting a quarter of what you have asked for. What it means is it forces you to think through, only to put in just the important things that you can put in and still get the work done.
Well, let's explore this further here on the polls. Joining me now on the telephone is Member of Parliament for Manso Nkwanta and the Deputy Ranking on the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament, Kodua Trinibwa. We appreciate your time here on the polls. The MPP should be applauding government for these fuel costs, especially knowing fully well that your previous administration did same.
Yeah, thank you very much. And good afternoon to our listeners and viewers. And thanks for having me. Yes, indeed, measures to ensure that we fasten our belts, there is consolidation, fiscal consolidation and austerity to ensure we stay in line with budget. I hope, that is fine. But let's ask ourselves, what the coincidence of this of this austerity measure and the implementation date for the key levy or the poor levy. It's quite interesting. The poor levy, one did it later, is coming back from tomorrow. And interestingly, this is also coming up. So if you look at it, it's quite interesting. It's not just a mere coincidence. There is something behind it. If you look at the public anger and the displeasure when the poor levy was brought to Parliament and when it was actually voted on and so on and so forth, its implementation, the government indeed is really having the Achilles heel that definitely the public is not going to take it easy. And for that matter, is trying to, bring this along as if, it's a government that is, interested in austerity and so on and so forth. So the introduction of this austerity measure and the de-levy that is coming into force, for me, it tells you this is just for the optics and nothing else, my sister.
Just for the optics, you say, but then the previous administration did same, cutting that by some 50%, and government is hoping to rake in some substantial amount from this new measure they're implementing. Shouldn't you be pleased about this, really?
Yes, what I'm saying is, you see, at the end of the day, it's about the Ghanaian people, the ordinary Ghanaians. How much is being taken from the ordinary Ghanaian? How much the ordinary Ghanaian is asked to pay or to cover? Okay, here we are, the de-levy or the poor levy. As was indicated in the budget that was read in March, this poor levy is going to raise about 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. 5.7 billion Ghana cedis from the ordinary Ghanaian. Okay, so if you are raising about 5.7 billion Ghana cedis, okay, from the ordinary Ghanaian, and you are telling us you're going to implement this measure that would, take away poor coupons from government appointees, which, based on what I listened to, the presentation that was done just a while ago, it says 2023 was 600 million Ghana cedis. If 600 million Ghana cedis, compare it to the 5.7 billion that you are taking from Ghanaians, that is just about 10% of what you are taking from Ghanaians. So you are taking more, and just for the optics showing that, you are, cutting expenditure. If you are cutting 600 million or approximately, assuming the figure that was given for 2023 is anything to go by, compare that to 5.7 billion, they estimated to be raised from the ordinary Ghanaian when this poor levy implementation starts tomorrow. So, if you compare these two, you are taking more from Ghanaians, and what you are, trying to save from taking away these poor coupons, it's peanuts. So, Ghanaians are rational, and I believe they will do this analysis and know that indeed the government is taking so much from the ordinary Ghanaian, and what it's doing now is just to, douse their anger with some peanuts. What you are taking from government appointees in terms of poor coupons, it's just small. Like I said, if 600 million was for 2023, you can even give some projection today. Let's say it goes to 650. It's still just around 10% of what you are taking from Ghanaians. So for me, it is not much for anyone to give it attention and to applaud the government. If anything is to go by, okay, look at what was done during Nanado's time when he wanted to ensure there was fiscal consolidation. He asked all government appointees to cut their salaries by 30%. That was bold. That was significant.
But this administration is also doing the same, downsizing the number of appointees. And for you, you don't think that is enough, really? And if, based on the new directive, if it means that government will no longer be buying fuel for appointees, it means that just as you and I, they'll be buying fuel and they will be paying for that 1 CD levy from their pockets.
Yes, I mean, what I'm saying is, see, Ghanaians are not happy with this levy or energy fuel levy of 1 CD on every liter. Okay, Ghanaians are not happy with that. And I think this displeasure was put out there when it was, brought into force. And for me, its implementation which comes into force from tomorrow. That is all that the government is trying to doubt of. Okay, and we would want Ghanaians to understand this, that whatever the government is saying, that it is, scrapping, coupon systems, appointees and whatever, it is just to, give some optics that is doing something to cut government expenditure. But if you're cutting government expenditure and taking so much from the ordinary Ghanaian that you promised to help, you promise to support, you promise not to take much, because this government came into power talking about relaxing taxes and so on and so forth. But now you are taking more. And this is just, a drop in the ocean. If you say you are taking coupons, from government appointees, it's just a drop in the ocean compared to what you are taking from Ghanaians effective tomorrow.
But isn't their reason justifiable enough, really? They want to fix the energy sector crisis.
The energy sector crisis, yes, we understand their, huge debts to be paid and so on and so forth, which started, quite some time ago. And, we've debated it already. This cannot be a solution to the energy sector issue. It cannot be. It is just insignificant. It is not bold enough. It is just for the optics. Like I said, it is just for people to hear and say, yes, the government is doing something. But that something is just not enough. It's not significant. It's not anywhere compared to what the government is taking from the ordinary Ghanaian, making the ordinary Ghanaian suffer more. Okay, and when you talk about fuel affects everyone because we all travel. So if you are going to take more from Ghanaians when they purchase fuel, it's going to affect everyone. So it's going to hit every pocket in this country, and that is what we are talking about.
And so from where you sit, really, I want you to suggest to government, how best do you suggest they're raking enough revenue to close the fiscal gaps?
You see, my sister, if we talk about fiscal gap in the entire budget of the nation, then there are a number of things that the government can do. You have to be able to prosecute an agenda that will bring in more revenue. And it's not only about taxing. Okay, it's not only about taxing. The economy has to grow first. You grow the economy and you tax out of it. You don't tax when you haven't grown the economy. If you haven't put money in people's pockets, you haven't promoted businesses, how do you tax them? So you tax more when you promoted the economy. So the various programs that the government trumpeted, all these programs, we haven't seen much about, okay? All we have heard is 24-hour economy, and it seems to be clouding everything. What about the various programs that the government talked about? It talked about a grid for economic transformation. We talked about 1 million coders program, a Jumerura apprenticeship, and all these economic transformation programs. As we speak, Parliament has not received a single policy document covering any of them. A single policy document Parliament has not received. So all these were mentioned that there were programs we are going to run. Not a single policy document has been received by Parliament, which controls the purse of this country. So all I'm saying is we need to have economic programs that are practicable, that can rake in revenue to this country. And if our revenue goes up, and of course, if your revenue is going up, it means your GDP also growing well, then you can tax. Okay, then you can flow this fiscal debt that we have. That is how it's done. Otherwise, you would tax and tax and tax indirectly and all that. And at the end of the day, it's the ordinary Ghanaian that is going to suffer.
Stay with me. Let me bring you this update to our audience watching. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, has urged the public to ignore speculations and projections by the black forex market traders, commonly known as Zabama. He cautioned that these projections are not backed by official data released by the Bank of Ghana following its regular monetary policy committee meetings. Speaking at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting on July 15, 2025, Dr. Esiama expressed concern that some Ghanaians rely on such unverified sources to form speculations about the cedi, leading to unnecessary panic and premature liquidation of their funds.
The Bank of Ghana must therefore walk a delicate line like we do, managing forex strength without over-tightening liquidity, which could suppress private sector credit and stifle the very growth we seek to encourage. This balance is not static. It requires constant recalibration based on evolving data and market behavior. And for us, we monitor these on a weekly basis. Monday afternoons, we have an economic policy coordination meeting where we assemble all the data. So yesterday in the afternoon, we had that. And that's how come on a weekly basis, we can tell you what is happening in the economy. So it's all about the data. It's evidence-based. So let's all base our projections, our perceptions, whatever it is, our doubts and our fears, let it be based on the data. What does the data say? Not what the Alaji says, not what the Zamanama man says, please.
Well, let's explore this further. Joining us this afternoon on Zoom is Dr. Richmond Echiahini. He's a banking consultant. I appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Do you agree with those who say that pumping dollars into the system to stabilize the cedi is not sustainable enough?
And good afternoon to your viewers. You know, intervening in the market, this is not the first time. I was a foreign exchange dealer in this country as far back as the 90s. Even in the 90s, there were intervention from central bank. Depending upon the quantum of your resources that allow you to intervene. Because we are in what we call the managed float exchange. Manage means that you manage it, you go into it when you think you're getting outside the band, you intervene. Depending upon your resources, I will say, and looking at the reserves that he said, I mean, even if you're going to pay part of your debt and you have so much, you need to support the currency to be there. So I'm wondering, those who have been saying, I think those of us who have sat in treasury, and dealt in foreign exchange, there has been intervention since 1980s when I was a foreign exchange dealer. So to me, it isn't anything new because we are not operating fixed exchange rate regime. We are operating managed floats, and they should get it clear. Manage means that when you see that you're getting outside the band and you have enough resources, you got to intervene. Because if you don't intervene, you will run the economy down, create inflation everywhere. And that is why since Dr. Kwesi Botwe time, this policy of managed float has been with us. So I wonder when people say that the IMF is saying this and that. You have resources, enough resources. What do you do with the resources? It's to support the currency, to support the currency movement. And my sister, even in America, they intervene in the market. Those who don't know, let me tell them. In Britain, they intervene in the market. When they think that the pound is going wayward, they come in. The Bank of England comes in. But if, depending on your resources, and if you listen to the governor, you build so much resources to support the currency, and to support your balance of payment, and to support your reserves. And you get the reserves to intervene in the market. So those of us who are sitting behind, we find it very strange that we should let the currency get back to where we were. When inflation was rocketing, you couldn't control inflation because most of our imports, we call it the import inflation. We import inflation. So when your currency is bad, you are importing inflation. So now that they've been able to get enough resources, then they should intervene to keep it control. But it all depends. It all depends how you continue to build your reserves. And yes, today, he made that the prices of cocoa has gone up.
Yeah.
Gold has been hovering about 3,250. The remittances, as he said, has been coming in consistently. And all these things are coming to support the economy. If we leave the currency to go on free floating, we are not going to support. We cannot plan anything in this economy.
Doc, this may not be new, but we're wondering how sustainable this can be in the long run, really.
Yes, the question is that you've asked a very relevant question. It is only sustainable if you continue to generate enough foreign exchange from your gold systems, from your cocoa. I mean, currently, cocoa is going for about $8,500. It has never happened in the world before. So this year, if you manage to do even 600,000 metric tons, multiply it by the 8,000, you're making a huge, it has never happened in this country before. And the gold. And this year, I'm reliably told that we are going to improve our gold from, I think, 14.7 billion to about 20 billion. And that will go a long way to support the economy. Those who think that we should float it, the IMF comes in and they prescribe drugs, medicine for us, as if they live in this economy. When inflation was 54%, they were the very same people who were complaining that we are not able to control the economy. And when the inflation comes coming to 13%, people don't intervene. Where are we going? Let me make it categorically clear that since 1990s, when I was a foreign exchange dealer, every government has intervened in the currency, depending upon your reserves. So it's not a new thing to some of us who have been foreign exchange dealer at all. And currently, we have built a reserve from about 9, now we are getting to 11. If we build to 14 and the CD is going, why do we let the CD go? No. There is what we call managed float. Let me repeat it. Managed float exchange. You intervene to manage it. You don't let it go free floating. So I'm wondering why people are complaining.
But
they are complaining just because they want to complain.
But how can speculations really in the forex market affect the fortunes of the city at a time like this?
My sister, when we were dealers in the 80s, we even ramped the cowling people. We ramped them up. Bank of Ghana and the team, we took people out. But you see, so far as your supply doesn't meet your demand totally, and not every transaction that goes into the banking system, there will always be these people there. But what the governor is saying that they are having evidence-based, which a lot of people in this country doesn't understand research. We call it ethnography. Ethnography means that you sit in, observe. Do you know that they send people to go there and behave like buying money? You have no idea. They send people to go there to test the market. They do it, and we've been doing it ever since. So if you have the evidence base or the ethnography and you have a solid data, then you can say that even speculation cannot affect where you are. So for me, I'm not surprised what the governor is doing, that he's doing what we call research-based. What is the evidence-based means that ethnography. You sit in, go in, participate in it, come with results, and then report and help you to shape your decisions. And that is exactly when he said evidence-based. Then I realized that he's a researcher who goes to sit in the people, do that. Some of them even prefer to be cowling people, and they'll be trading. And they report back and say, we look at it and we see that is the way it's going. Let us come in to stop the speculation. That is how foreign exchange is dealt, especially in this part of our world.
And then looking at the performance of the city, quite impressive within the first 6 months of this new administration. But many argue that it's simply because they haven't started spending on capital-intensive projects. Is that the case?
Well, to a certain extent, you may be right. The question is that if you come to a country that was bankrupt, let me use this word reservedly, Ghana was bankrupt. A person who cannot pay his debt was a bankrupt. And you need to, look at the debt we left for the road. The road debt is 67 billion. And yet last week, the minister said that he's making a ring to pay 4 billion. If you leave a debt of 6 billion, 67 billion, plus 2.3 billion US dollar on energy debt, and then you come and tell us that the economy is not going. It's only for just about 6 months. And you're trying to predict something that has happened over the last 8 years. Let us Ghanaians be very objective and be very analytical. You left a debt, 67.7 billion on contractors. I traveled to Akosombo recently. You can't talk about the motorway. You can't talk about Akosombo Road. You can't talk about Cape Coast Road. You can't talk about Kumasi Road. So what? And these are things that you did without having land. You didn't plan how you're going to pay. And then somebody comes in, just about 4 months. You want him to turn the wheel as if the economy is just like a football. You don't turn it that way. It will take quite a time. It will take quite a time, not a day. It will take about maybe 2 years before we can come back where maybe we were in the 2015, 2016. Other than that, they should not make noise. For us, when I listen to some of the argument, 4 months, and people are they are judging as if the government has been there for only 6 months, 1 year. No. Consider what you left behind. You defaulted on international debt. You defaulted on domestic debt. You defaulted on contractors. So what do you want them to do? Even taxes, they are not generating enough because we have so much outstanding payment to be made. I'm not speaking as a government official, but I'm speaking from the database point. That's why I'm quoting you the debt and the debt and the debt. So Ghanaians should exercise restraint and let us see how it goes in 1 year and before we begin make our comment. The comments that politicians make, some of us when we sit there and we listen to them, at times I say I regret to be a Ghanaian, honestly, because the problem Ghana has gone through, it has never happened in my period. I'm nearly close to 70 years. I've never seen anything in my life when a country has been declared bankrupt, failure to pay your debt, external and domestic, contractors, everybody. And then when somebody is trying to shape it, this one is not good, this one is not good. Let us have restraint and let us all think about the future of the country, not be so pessimistic about our lives. Because those of us who have served this nation over 40 years in banking, you know what I'm talking about.
Doc, stay with me. I would come to you for your final words. But let me bring in Mr. Trinibua as we wrap up the conversation with him. Many argue that the NPP lacks the moral right to even critique government in the first place, especially when you implemented the e-levy at a time where there was heavy public outcry against the levy. This administration has scrapped it, and they're now introducing another levy, but this time with one city, and you have issues with it. Why exactly?
I'm sure you partially answered the question for me, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners, they've made the deductions already. Because if the government that is in power now complains about e-levy, which was an electronic tax to bring in revenue to support government business, then where is the moral justification to bring another tax that is even higher, far higher than the e-levy? Because if you work it out, you might say, oh, it's just 1 cedi per liter, but percentage-wise, it's about 8%. If you look at the price per liter, it's about 8%. So think about it, 1% for funds that you transfer. Even with that, the first 100 cedis, you were not taxed. So just 1% compared to about 8%. When you say 1 cedi, it looks small, but in percentage terms, it's about 8%. So the moral justification is not there at all. If you were against e-levy, then you shouldn't have the right to introduce a poor levy that is far higher. Because at the end of the day, your complaint was that the ordinary Ghanaian was probably paying too much. So what you are asking them to pay now, is it lower? No, it is higher. So you've rather gone back and made it worse. And that is the issue. And I believe Ghanaians, they've worked this out, and that is why now the poor levy, which is being implemented from tomorrow, the government is trying to, I'm taking away poor coupons from my appointees. That is peanuts compared to the huge amount. Okay, that is 5.7 billion that is being collected from Ghanaians from tomorrow. So my sister, Ghanaians have made their deductions already.
Thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. Let me wrap up with Doc as we finalize the conversation. Doc, I would just like you to wrap up for me within a few minutes. Just give me your thoughts. Government's decision to ensure they scrap the payment of fuel for government appointees. They plan to rake in enough money to push into the education and health sector. How sustainable is that really?
Thank you very much, my sister. I think, let me react to what I heard. If you did ESLA, you created a bond and didn't solve the energy crisis. And at that time, the debt was only 15 billion. Today, we are talking about 2.3 billion multiplied by even 10. So if you are multiplying by even 10, you're talking about 20-something billion. If we don't begin to look at it with this energy and we take it for a joke, a country will come to a grinding halt. And we should accept it. The mess has been caused already. ESLA bonds. What is happening to the money? Why couldn't they pay? We need to be very pragmatic in the way we are handling the economy. That's why I say those of us who are researchers sitting behind, at times we feel sad. Because the way the ESLA didn't solve it, we need to tackle it. He's talking about 5.8 billion. If we can even rape 5.8 billion to reduce $2-something billion, at least we are heading somewhere. That is a strategy. Now let us go to what you asked me. These cuts, the Article 71, what we've all been saying, there are too many things they enjoy. So for me, it's a good beginning. The ordinary people are suffering on a bad route. So you are in a dichotomy, bad road and expenditure. So for me, even considering it is to the extent to go to the poor, to the needy areas, schools without classrooms, school without carpet, school without teachers. For me, it is a good beginning, and they should perceive and do more consolidation, fiscal consolidation, cutting so many things, so many times, so many things. At least we commend him for the ministry. Once upon a time, somebody had 100 and something ministers. He brought it to 84. And somebody has money to say, I'm going to do 60. That is a huge cut. And then he comes in and said, look, I'm not going to let you have petrol like that. I will cut it. I'll cut it to support at least those who are suffering. For me, it is the step in the right direction. I'm not a politician. I'm speaking from evidence-based data, like the governor said. So I would support them that they should be cutting more, so that we all put our belt, we tight our belt so that we can get the economy running. That's what I will say for the time being.
Thank you, Dr. Richmond Echiahini. He is joining us here on The Pulse. We appreciate your time. Well, you're still watching The Pulse. After this quick turn, we will tell you what the National Peace Council is doing to ensure peace between political parties. Please stay tuned in. So staying with us here on The Pulse. So other stories now. The National Peace Council has triggered full engagement with the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, and the New Patriotic Party, the NPP, ahead of the anticipated by-election in Akwitia constituency. The move comes barely 4 days after chaos that nearly marred the Abligma North parliamentary elections. The incident, which involved attacks on journalists and a former fisheries minister, Hawa Kumsin, have raised serious concerns over potential escalation of the situation in the next by-election. Executive Secretary to the National Peace Council, Dr. George Amwa, says the council has activated its regional arm to begin engagement with two major political parties ahead of the elections.
We have the opportunity to change the narrative, and particularly, like you said, going to Akwitia. I have, by the instructions of the chairman of the Peace Council, we've asked our regional Peace Council to begin talking to the political parties, to begin brokering the necessary, things that we have to do to ensure that we go to Akwitia and get it right. You remember, ahead of the 2024 elections, the police did very well. Yeah. We had three very, tough elections, closely run elections, but they were able to hold on. Yes, so we've started our engagement processes. I think that is what we are mandated to do to prepare the minds and the hearts of our people, the electors, for a peaceful election. So I have spoken with my regional secretary in the Eastern region, and they are going to start that. We also want to know who are going to contest on a ticket of both the NDC and NPP and any other party who will be involved, so that we can target them and try to prepare them for peaceful elections.
Meanwhile, there are raging calls from the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, for a full-scale investigation into the inability of the police to foil the attacks on Friday.
So, if there's some problem with the police being able to do its job, we should know. Is it interference? Are they saying they can't do their job and because somebody is ordering them not to? And that's why we asked the police council that has control and direction over the police to make an inquiry. We need to it's not just finding the perpetrators. I think that's a first step, a very first important step to changing this course. But we need to get to the bottom of this because I'm glad that you are focusing on Akwitia, but it's even beyond Akwitia.
A former secretary to the Emil Short Commission, which investigated the 2019 Ayawasu West Wuogon by-election violence, Professor Kofi Abuchi says the independent body must be triggered to investigate the matter, as he expressed frustration over government's inability to fully implement the commission's report.
When the police misbehave, quote unquote, the police will have to investigate the police. And it's counterintuitive to think about it this way. So in many jurisdictions, what they have is an independent body that oversees the police when there are complaints about the police. Because typically it doesn't make sense for an entity to investigate itself. The entity can, but given our history, we normally go far when an entity investigates itself. These recommendations can still be implemented. It is a matter of big regret for me, as I indicated earlier, why the government that spent money to set up the commission substantially rejected the recommendations of the commission, many of which are so difficult to reject, if you ask me, if you face the facts, because the hearings were actually public and everybody saw what happened. There are people who haven't recovered from that till today. There are people who have severed limbs. There are people who suffered greatly because of the Ayawasu Commission violence. And to think of the fact that we substantially rubbished the outcome of the commission's work, merely because, of disagreements with the outcome, is one that I find quite troubling. And as I indicated, the report is still there and it can't be implemented. And we still have a lot more elections ahead of us moving forward into the future.
Well, let's explore this further and speak to some of the political parties involved in this. Join us on the telephone now is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Haruna Mohammed. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. I'm wondering, has your side been invited by the police yet to provide evidence in connection with the key incidences we saw at Ablikma North? Hannah, you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly. I'm wondering if you've been invited by the police, the NPP as a political party, to help provide evidence in connection with the chaotic scenes we saw at Ablikma North.
Invited asking?
Invited to help provide evidence in connection to the investigations.
First and foremost, I don't know the basis on which we are going to be invited.
Okay.
If there is any invitation at all by the police and there is any seriousness to unravel the perpetrators of these heinous crimes that were meted out to the citizens of Ghana, more especially the way women were dehumanized in the manner in which it was done. People were beaten like animals. Yesterday, myself and my colleague was on your program, which is the PMS Press. He said he can identify some of them, and they are NDC members. So if there is any invitation at all, I believe that the NDC people should be invited to identify them or bring them to help the police in their investigation. We've also seen a viral video that is going around where these people who have gone to display their violent architecture the history of the NDC were being rewarded at the premises of the Jubilee House. And we find it very unfortunate, and we want the police to take up this matter. These are persons who committed crimes on camera. They were known, and these people can easily be traced to all the media houses who have done their work very well. I want to use the opportunity to commend the reporters and the cameramen. They were very strict, they were very straight, precision was right, and they were able to pick all the angles. I don't think that the police has any reasonable excuse to say that they cannot find the perpetrators. Up to today, it's worrying that nobody, not a single person, has been arrested. I think that we need to call on the civil society. They have been quiet. Nobody has said anything. We need to call on the religious authorities. I heard the National Peace Council, Dr. Amoa, made a statement yesterday condemning it. We don't just need a program condemnation, but it should be an official condemnation that can be put on record and be put in the right perspective.
Haruna, stay with me because I'll come to you just to get updates on operations so far for the delegates conference. But let's stay on Ablikma North and the violence that erupted on that day. And let me bring in a criminologist now to join the conversation. Jones Opokuware, he's a criminologist, has joined us live here on The Pulse. We appreciate your time. Now, it's been days after the violence we saw at Ablikma North. No arrests yet. Yesterday we heard from government telling us that they're indeed reviewing some of the footages to help identify the individuals. But really, is that enough?
And a very good afternoon to you and also to your viewers. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can hear me, what I want to say is that it's a step in the right direction, but I think that, you know, in terms of the speed with which this thing should be done, this investigation should be done, I think there is some sort of, you know, lethargy when it comes to, you know, what the police is supposed to do. Because if you look at what has happened, I mean, all of us saw what happened last, I think the last few days, and there are videos and there are pictures of, you know, these acts and what they went to Ablikma North to do. I mean, you don't need days for you to review these things. I mean, these people, their faces are so clear, and it's very easy for you to, you know, as it were, pick them up. And I'm thinking that once we've gone for almost 3 or 4 days and nothing has happened, I think that it is something that is supposed to be worrying for all of us as a people. And I think that the police will have to be up and doing and make sure that they get to these guys and get them to face the full rigors of the law.
But as a criminologist, how do you propose we identify the individuals, especially when both political parties are shifting blames or claiming that these are not members of their party?
Well, they may not be members of their party, but everybody and everything suggests that these guys came in and working for one particular group of people. Okay, and for me, I don't think an NDC group of MPP group of people will go and attack their own Hawaii Kumsin when it's an election that they themselves are fighting. And so obviously, I mean, a cursory look at it will tell anybody that these guys were working for the ruling government. And if you look at the way they acted and the way, they carried out this attack, it suggests to me that it was carefully orchestrated. Instructions were carefully given for them to go and execute whatever they went there to do. And so it is not something that anybody, especially the ruling government, NDC, who should be able to, distance themselves from these guys. I think that obviously by the deeds and action on the day and on the ground, based on what we've seen, these were guys that were working for the NDC, and they must own up to this. Their leaders must be very blunt and make sure that they give these people up, because I mean, some of us know where some of these guys probably were even procured from, the movements and all that, but they need to own up, because when they decide not to own up and get their acts together, this is what gives right to the kind of impunity, that we've been seeing over the period. And I think that for me as a criminologist, I'm very worried, because this is a pattern that seems to have been perpetuated over the period, not even just today, but we can go way back to all the by-elections that we've been having in this country. And once we decide to perpetuate this kind of gang culture in the country, it becomes very difficult for us to even guarantee people's security and even be able to guarantee our democracy. And that is why I'm saying that let's be blunt, let's face the truth, because this is an existential threat against our democracy and even against our electoral processes. And it is not something that we can bury our head in the sand and pretend as if we don't know them. What were their business there? Who brought them there?
We've heard from the NDC state on record categorically that they cannot be associated with this group of individuals. With the police currently reviewing the footages, I'm wondering, how can they access the database to be able to identify these individuals? What's the process they ought to go through to fast track the whole issue?
Well, I mean, luckily for us, these guys have their faces on camera, and I don't know which other means it is that we can use to easily get them, especially when we have them on camera. So the camera videos and all those things is a key evidence for us to be able to get these guys and get them to come and face justice. So I'm thinking that once they are reviewing the video, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and we are waiting with all the patients to know the kind of names and the kind of places they are going to put out when the police come out with their review of the videos. But based on the videos that we all seen, there are certain key personalities that were at the forefront of this, and they are the people who we expect to see their faces on video, and they are the faces that we expect the police to arrest and get them to face the full rigors of. So it shouldn't be something very difficult for the police, especially when, even without any professional cameras, people who were there and took all these amateur videos were able to capture the faces of this guy, the guy who was flying and all those guys. And even afterwards, these guys were in pickup and doing signs as if they want to slaughter people and all that. So it shouldn't be something that should be easy for the police, especially when there is this camera evidence for us to identify and profile these people and bring them to book.
We have another by-election on our hands with Akwitia. What lessons can we learn from what happened at Ablikman North that can help with security measures in the upcoming by-elections?
Well, I think I made this point on your sister station in Kumasi on Love FM, and I said that, look, I think we need to review the processes of, guarding, especially polling stations that we've been deploying over the period. I don't understand why as at the end, because there's a clear pattern that a lot of the violence occurs during, these by-elections. Why don't we arm the police to serve as a deterrent to people who want to come and cause chaos at these centers? So that policy of not allowing, as it were, police to have, ammunitions and other gadgets, protective gadgets around police stations during exams, I think it's very wrong. It's high time we review, because all the patterns of evidence suggest that because they know the police don't have these kind of accoutrements to secure the polling stations. People gather en masse and run over them and disrupt the electoral process. So it is something that I think we have to review that process, especially going into, for instance, the Aketua election. I'm expecting that the IGP and all those that matter in terms of security will equip the police in terms of, all the accoutrements that they will need to police, the polling station, and make sure that all the polling stations that the elections are supposed to be taken can be properly secured, and then we don't have some of these tags, coming in to disrupt the process and also attacking people because they have been sent by some people to go and disrupt the process. I think that is very wrong, and I think that one of the things we have to do is that we have to review that protocol and make sure that the police are properly armed to secure all the polling stations.
Some security analysts argue that the police have simply lost the respect of the citizens, and it's high time we introduce the military, especially when it comes to our elections. Should that be the way to go?
Well, I don't think that still we need the military. I think it hasn't gotten to the stage where the military will have to come in, but I still think, and based on the comments I've already made, I still think that the police will have to be armed. Okay, it is only when I feel the situation is becoming too volatile and becoming too extreme that maybe we will call the military as backup. But if the police are well equipped and they are giving all the protective accoutrement for them to secure the polling station, I'm sure they can be able to police these polling stations. Because if you look at typically the numbers of people that even vote in a police station, they are not many. It tells you that these are numbers that the police can manage, especially if they have the guns and all those things there to secure the police. So for now, I mean, from a very professional point, I think that for now we don't really need the military as yet. But let's review the protocol. Let's get the police to be well armed and well secure. Because I know, based on the evidence I've seen at Ablekumanov, if the police were armed, I'm sure just even a warning shot would have scared some of these guys away, and they could have properly secured the police station and avoid some of these things. But the people knew that these guys were unarmed. The police had nothing there. They were just there in uniform. They just wore uniform and came to stand there without any proper, security protocol. So that is why they were able to outrun them and did the things they did there. So why don't you review the process? And I'm sure our polling stations could be well secured going forward.
I appreciate your time, John Tupokwari. He's a criminologist. Join us here on the polls. Thank you so much. Well, away from that, the Ministry of Defense has withdrawn military protection from all civilians who are not legally entitled to such services, including some public officials, former ministers and businessmen. The move forms part of government efforts to restore discipline and accountability within Ghana's security structure. Announcing the directive in a Facebook post, the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Amani-Boama, described the decision as a key component of government's broader reset agenda focused on promoting transparency and responsive governance. And that post is on social media and as well as myjoyonline.com. You can take a look at it. Away from that, tensions are rising in Dawa Ado Oting, a farming community in the Ningo Prampram district of the Greater Accra region, where residents are protesting the presence of the military on their ancestral farmlands. The locals claim that their lands have been taken over without consultation, disrupting their livelihoods. There's more in the following report.
In the farming village of Dawa Ado Otin, anxiety is growing over what residents describe as encroachment on their farmlands by a private company backed by military presence. According to the residents, the land was inherited generations ago and serves as their sole source of livelihood through farming and animal rearing. However, they say a company, LMI Holdings, now claims ownership of portions of the land allegedly sold by a community elder without community consensus. Spokesperson for the community, William Adela, stated that the company's operations are destroying crops and displacing farmers, worsening economic hardship.
We, the elders and members of the Adoten family of Lower Kono Salutin of Great Ningo traditional area in Dawa, do on this day release to general public our displeasure regarding how our family land is being treated by a private entity with no LMI Holdings. LMI Holdings in few weeks immense tasks and currently destroying our land and farm crops. As farmers, these dining activities have and cutting down our source of livelihoods.
He further petitioned government and relevant agencies to immediately help withdraw the military from their farmlands and investigate the land transaction.
We call on the defense minister to withdraw the military men from our land back to their barracks. We call on the stakeholders, security agencies, and other state agencies to come to our aid and redeem our land.
When contacted, head of LMI Dawa Industrial Zone Niama stated that the institution adheres to all legal and regulatory requirements guiding development projects in Ghana. Nonetheless, he says the institution will take the necessary steps to come out to address the issue accordingly.
Well, let's head now to the Ashanti region. The Incaria Forest District in the region is once again under siege as illegal miners brazenly reclaim vast portions of protected forest land few days after a major police swoop. The recent anti-galamsey operation uncovered fresh destruction in areas including Peki, Nkrumah, and parts of the Jemera Forest Reserve. Nanabuachi Adam reports on the destruction caused by illegal miners as police seized 4 brand new excavators.
Kenyans have staged a bold return to the Incaria Forest District, leaving behind a trail of devastation in some of the country's most fragile green belts. A special police task force acting on intelligence embarked on a major operation deep inside the forest enclave, where they discovered extensive environmental destruction.
This is the Incaria Forest District, and the police just made its way into the forest, and fresh invasion has been made by illegal miners into this enclave. And you can see that while there is serious soup ongoing all over the country, the illegal miners continue to destroy our water bodies and our forest reserves. There are 3 brand new excavators in here that the police are expected to tow out of the place. And work was just ongoing few minutes before we made our entry into the forest.
The illegal miners had cleared swathes of forest cover, dug massive pits, and polluted nearby water bodies, erasing years of conservation efforts and threatening livelihoods dependent on the forest ecosystem. During the raid, officers seized 4 heavy-duty excavators that were being used to rip through the protected land. Ernest Kofi Ajari is an illegal miner. He was accosted during the swoop.
I didn't know where galamsey, but I can say, you know, I'm a Tommy Papa. If you so yet, and I know I'm a young Kaka, maybe Momelia, machine and a metiso. Now, what must say, Sunni in Nashahana? I dare we ask you, the thing I know. And one behind me say, I'll say an enemy first time.
I am into illegal mining because I didn't come to meet my father. This helps me a lot. I'm the operator of the machine. I was only employed yesterday. The owner of this concession is at Minehini. We are about 8 working here.
Yeah, Sasi kukusio. Tiano mdebeti nze honi ya farmland. Sami minimum na so ayi.
It's the ben obi jagalamse.
Oh.
Is achu?
Bacho ya we.
O ya we achu.
I say police for jam tiri. Mane kula gume tuk. Me kwa nyama na me year 19, obi na year 19, tafi na me ma birthday.
Mo ye sen na mo ye adwuma, o de wani hwe ma mo ye nipa be sen.
O be 8.
The community miners had made several attempts to stop the police from towing the seized excavators.
So this was a barrier that was laid down here, a very thick tree, a pole that was dropped down here by some suspected miners to prevent the police seized excavators from moving through the streets. But then police have swiftly taken off the pole which served as a barrier, and now it is going to pave way for the excavators which have been seized to move through and then move all the way to the Patase police depot.
2 individuals were arrested at a compound known for harboring illegal mining activities. The 2, clad in army uniforms, admitted to be miners protecting their master, who is on the run.
I was a welder and I came into this job. My boss is an illegal miner.
Illegal mining.
Despite an earlier operation aimed at flushing them out, the miners have returned in droves. Some local residents applauded the efforts by the police.
We appreciate this operation, and this will help save all our water bodies.
For JoyNews, Nana Bochidankwe Kumasi.
Away from the Ashanti region, for many middle-class families, building a home is the only way out of the never-ending cycle of rent. But too often, that dream stalls, trapped between rising construction costs and runaway rent. In today's episode of our Habitat series, JoyNews journalist Carlos Kaloni visits Tema Community 25, where unfinished homes tell the story of dreams put on hold.
A 2023 household survey by the Ghana Statistical Service revealed that Ghanaians spend nearly 28% of their monthly income on rent. For many in the middle class, the solution seems clear: build a home and break free. But that dream often becomes a trap. They start big to escape rent, but rising costs of building materials, poor planning, and unstable finances force many to abandon their projects halfway, littering Ghana's skyline with unfinished concrete structures as a monument to frozen dreams. Meet Desire Badasu, a young father who tried to break free from the rent maze.
It's a 5-bedroom house actually, with a hall and an extended attachment of an extra space for a hall. We have a laundry, we have a kitchen, we have the dining, then we have a study. Both facilities are accommodated for both the down floor and then the top floor. So in general, we have a kitchen also upstairs. So if we couple it together, that would be 2 kitchens, 1 kitchen down, 1 kitchen up. We have 2 studies, 1 down, 1 up.
Desire began his dream home hoping to finish in 18 months, but unexpected spikes in building material costs have delayed the project for years.
The project was actually estimated to take barely 1.5 years maximum. Ideally, 1 year would have been better, but when we started, along the way, realized prices of things escalated. There was very little room to make adjustment in terms of finances. You just have to go along because you have a timeline you want to work with the limited finances you have. But after the first stage of the project, that's after finishing the ground floor, we realized we overshot our budget because as of the time we started, cement price was around 50 cedis per bag. And then within a period of 4 to 5 months, it jumped up to 60, 80. From there on is a different story. So per percentages, you could just calculate that the prices of things were moving at a rate of 20 to 30% per the amount you had estimated to use to complete the project. Because I had a fair idea of how much you would use to complete the project. But by the time we're halfway through, we had already consumed that amount we had already projected for the first floor. So that actually delayed the project a bit. Right now, we are into 3 years. We are in our 3rd year. The way things are going, we are still projecting that at least by the close of the year, we should be done with the roofing. And then, so I could say roughly an extra 1 year to finish up everything.
Desire Badasu is one of the lucky few. He's at least managed to move his family into the ground floor as he battles rising costs to complete his dream home. Others aren't as fortunate. Across the country, skeletal structures of stalled dreams dot the landscape, silent reminders of hopes deferred. Construction consultant Abraham Lincoln Kokobo says the way out is simple. Dream within your means, set clear goals, and build with discipline from day one.
You need to identify the purpose for which you want to put up the building. Now, don't let that key purpose affect the start of your project. Now, if you have, let's say, a 40 by 80, which is like a half plot, or 40 by 70 or 50 by 50, square area of plot that you want to start your project, you need to seek an expert advice where that property land can be demarcated such that you get something that you go in there. For example, if you have just finished your university, you have landed one job, you can access some loan or something, you want to start your project, seek an advice on the cost of project. Now, ask yourself, do you want a place just to lay your head right now whilst you dream of a bigger picture of what kind of house you want to have? So if you do that, you will realize that you don't overburden yourself so much in trying to take 5, 10, 15 years to finish your dream house. Whilst in doing that, you're still paying rental somewhere. So I would like to advise that you need to distinguish between your first house and your dream house.
With the Ghana Statistical Service projecting a housing deficit of 4.2 million units by 2030, prospective homeowners believe stable currency, lower inflation, and higher incomes are key to closing the gap. For JoyNews, Carlos Keloni, Tema Community 25.
Away from that, she is carried to class every day because the school building has no ramps and elevator. Yet 15-year-old Alison Asantua Kranting, a student with a mobility challenge, continues to excel. Her academic brilliance is redefining what is possible. In our Disabled series, Irene Adubia-Eni brings you the story of a girl rising above a system that is failing to accommodate her needs.
On a day set aside to celebrate academic excellence, a young girl in a wheelchair draws the loudest applause. Her name, Alison Asantua Kranting, and today she's been honored as the best student in Year 9. Each day, Alison's journey to the classroom starts with a climb, carried in the arms of her teacher, supported by her friends and assistant. Her classroom is upstairs and there's no lift to get there.
My assistant helps me up the stairs with a teacher. When I come from home, my mom drops me off and then my assistant takes me to the stairs. Then there's a teacher who carries me upstairs while my assistant carries the wheelchair upstairs.
Alison takes her academics very seriously. For as long as I've known her, she always comes top. She's always the best. She doesn't joke with her homework and her assignments. In research, she's the first to submit her assignments. So I'm not surprised with the grades she always come up with because she really puts in the work.
In a world that sometimes stares at differences, Alison has found comfort in the eyes of her classmates, especially her best friend, Princess.
Me being friends with Alison is really good. She's been such an amazing part of my life to me. Every single day we have been talking and calling and just talking about things in general. And it's really nice to be friends with her. Sometimes we talk about movies. She recommends me movies. I don't watch them. And I recommend her a movie then. She doesn't watch them. And sometimes we talk about games like Roblox. And we play together with her sister. Sometimes people talk about her condition saying that they wish she was able to walk and stuff. And sometimes it just pains my heart. I don't like the attention of a lot of people looking at me because of this.
The school knows it still has work to do in making the environment fully disability friendly. There are wheelchair ramps to improve access. But without a lift, classrooms upstairs remain a challenge. Still, what the school is building is just as important: awareness, empathy, and inclusion.
Alison is a brilliant student. We have not finished with the building yet, so we can't have lifts. So, but once that is done, we would have lifts that will complete our inclusivity and or diversity, so to say. But even though her nanny comes with her, the nanny doesn't push her around. It is her friends in the class who do all of the pushing. So when they are going for library, when they are going anywhere, except they are coming down, her friends are the ones who help her move around. But when they are coming down, then a teacher who has been designated for her will bring her down, put her in the wheelchair, and then the friends continue to push or wheel her to wherever she wants to go. But she hardly moves around a lot.
As for Alison, she's very smart, intelligent. Even when she was small, she liked writing, reading books, and learning. And even at this age, when we get home after school, she will set her time for everything. The moment we get home, she will tell that, Auntie Cynthia, I want to bath. Maybe today I will start learning at this time, so please, can I eat around 5:30? Or maybe can I eat at 6? Because she will normally set her time for everything. So after bathing, it's ready for her to eat. After eating, she's learning. She can even learn from maybe 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. at times. Yes, because at times I will sleep and wake up and she will be still on her book. Yes, she likes learning a lot and research.
Her favorite subject is biology. She wants to become a doctor, not just because she's been to the hospital many times, but because she wants to help people, just like others have helped her.
When I grow up, I want to do medicine, but I don't know what specifically. Usually, when I go to the hospital and then I see the doctors and the nurses working together to help people, I want to be like them.
Alison may not walk on her feet, but she rises on her will, her work, and the people who surround her with love. Alison Santua's story is not about what she cannot do, but everything she already is.
Over 27 communities around Lake Busumchi in the Ashanti region are reeling from the impact of limited local health facilities, compelling children, women and the aged to trek miles to reach care. The Kuntanasi Government Hospital, that comes as the closest health center, is over an hour walk away, yet being compounded by poor road network, the trip is now longer. Evodia Foundation's health outreach in the community is seeking to mitigate the situation. There's more in the following report.
Over 20,000 residents live around Lake Busumchi in the Busumchi district of the Ashanti region. This population commutes between communities, taking over 40 minutes to access the nearest health facility in critical times of medical emergency. Residents of Enyinatiasi say they face a greater danger, fearing for the next health emergency they may encounter. When our children are sick, we have to walk miles to Abono to pick a car to Kuntanasi. By the time we get there, if the illness is serious, the child would have died. Our road is not even good. This also makes the situation worse. Evodia Foundation, through its community health outreach intervention, has highlighted the urgent need for infrastructure investment to improve healthcare delivery in the area. Physician assistant Hollyford Anani indicated that without periodic interventions like this and available healthcare centers, the situation could be fatal.
So most of the conditions
are in a deteriorating state. We had 2 cases of women who were far along in their pregnancy months, about more than 5 months pregnant, and they had not started any antenatal, and that was very problematic.
Beneficiaries of the free healthcare screening were medically assessed for malaria, blood pressure, and other essential medical conditions, receiving medications. Underprivileged women were given sanitary pads. Executive Director of Evodia Foundation, Lordina Sewa Boache, explained that an assessment reviewed the dire situation on which the foundation concluded to offer assistance.
We assessed primarily and then spoke to some residents here and realized that they do not have any medical facility around. No CHIP compound, not even a drugstore here to provide them with primary care, not even first aid. We've taken care of a lot of them too, and then we've administered drugs to them.
Beneficiaries who recounted struggling situations were excited for the intervention.
Oh, my boy, no more yare. Sir, Sikakwe ni kwa edu omobeko. Mobile no boy, nyame sha mo pa radenya mukase mujumedia. Maba bedi amaye, radenya mukase. O sheme pressure, o sheme sugar. O sheme ma bebre malaria ne you aboye. I say malaria haye ye mani nyina. O ma sheni nyina maye.
Akọfúnba ẹniparo àti ọmọ ọmọ yàrá náà àwọn tí ní kọbẹ bíi àná àbúrò ọmọ àmà àti ọmọ bàbá ní ọmọ àmẹ ní ọmọ nkọlá ní kúrá.
For JoyNews, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
And that's how we wrap up the polls. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. My name is Faustina Safo. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Some key stories there. Minority in Parliament, Labour Mahama's fuel allowance scrap as settings, and PR gimmick. You can go on myjoyonline and read more on that story. I appreciate your time and company. Let's do this same time, same station tomorrow.